Good morning, Geauga County, where you're going to be. We have a special guest with us today. We'll be getting into that shortly. And I've got Jonathan. He showed up a little bit late this morning. He must not have gotten his coffee yet. And
Good
so,
morning. No, I don't have my coffee.
day today, we had a couple of nice days bed into that into the cold world. American Legion and is phenomenal at ticking down, knowledgeable, safe, clean. Talking to Rob Burke, who owns Pinball Arcade, and he's out of.
But he did as well. I hope everybody was motivated.
Frank is always a lot of fun. Today, everybody's been it has some solid roots. But with that said, we had a great Easter and Resurrection Day yesterday. Ate too much food, of course. Had family over. Say, church was full. And give us a little background on who you are.
Well, listen, guys, but luckily I met Skip the man. Great. But great.
I don't think so, but
5 kids, a dog, pinball machines. And we would often take trips to take me to the. So I had seen him a little bit. He played these games. My dad and the family fan himself, so we did. And this is back in the end. The craziness continued with the people behind the scene, the designers and the artists. And I said to myself, these guys are really my heroes because I loved playing the games and still do it in the 60s because to me, they were the. So back in the newsletter, I said, would you be in favor? So in 1985, I did the first show called. We had a grand total of 100 through newsletters and magazines, article, one and done. And I recognized 4 gentlemen were responsible for the design, stood up and applauded. But were recognized. These guys won this pinball show, which I still the trips I had was in Canada. God, I remember playing in the game. I told my daughter a couple of years I started doing some things behind my back. Um, so I mean, this is a passion. Different titles, so to enjoy it. So so I said to myself, I might be interested in buying this building, but the price wasn't so bad. I ended up buying it. Little did I know I'd spent $500,000 fixing the roof. Oops. Put the key, open the door up. So thus, my mind is a good title. And we opened up to it's been a fun roller coaster ride, to be honest with you guys. Basically, the number of people come from Australia, interest and lovers that enjoy the industry, enjoy the hobby. And the hobby is catching on fire. People are really into pinball. And,
let me interrupt here, Robert, a little bit. We either shoot snooker or 8 ball, and he always had pin machines. And this is really a destination to many of us. It's all machines. I don't know if you have alcoholic beverages, and I have talked to some people who have come to cool thing from everybody that I've.
600 different machines, shining their lights off and talking and so forth. And it's really cool. It's been a lot of fun. And like you said, we do have food there. We're known for a menu Thursday through Sunday only. But Thursdays we don't open. But we charge one price.
Unfortunately, I need to stay 469-468 and a pastime. Means that you were tuned in on social media. Fast live streaming audience, feel free to Bob Burke and his on display for use in Girard, Ohio. So I've got some questions that are simmering for me. To assume these are not a quarter, like I remember. Of this.
You're right. Some of the games I have are even set for a nickel. I mean, I'll mention that when I get back on the air.
30 seconds.
Okay.
But yeah, we charge one price to get in. So one price you play till you drop. All the games are set for free play.
Oh, okay. Well, sounds cool. You don't have to carry around a big pocket full of nickels and quarters.
Yeah.
10 seconds.
Welcome back to Voice of Geauga with Skip Claypool, myself, and we've got Rob Burke from Pastime. Rob,
all these games have newest ones are $1, but what we do is we just charge for free play. Some of the aspects of the early that came out, which was in the 90s, you plunge the ball back and it bounces off the play, which is really cool because, for me anyways, because it's history. And the game is called Wiffle. The early 30 game, the 30s, and the newest games. Game built in 1947 that had flippers. So at the time, up to 47, all the games were made where you just kind of take time, and pinball became very widespread and accepted and loved. And there's a story about that. The gentleman who was behind the game, and I know this, the guy's name was Harry. He says, "Look, I've come up with a way of propelling the ball, keeping the game alive instead of draining all the time." So they built this game, Humpty Dumpty. It was a very, very great invention. It's hitting the industry now. Harry, it's a great idea. So I'm sorry I can't give you this. But that's a little side history for it. But yeah, the pinball thing is a very interesting thing. And we also have several rows of video games. So we have a whole.
Well, the classics from when I
So we have about 450 pinballs. It's a little bit of something to play more than the kids do because it brings back some upbeat, positive culture and environment. It's family friendly. And once you come, you're going to have a hard time leaving. It's just really a lot of fun.
It's hard to find. So I remember playing games, video game arcades when I was order and put it on the corner. Usually that led to some competition to see who had, yeah.
Back, that guy's playing that game. I'll come back later on. So, to your question, you know what? I'm seeing one more. Well, each one of us will put up some money, whether it be a quarter.
You got to have that. I mean, it's got to be counted.
So a lot of people will come, women, and we did recently in our regional chamber, which I'm a member of the chamber, and we called the corporate pinball challenge. But what we did was we opened up the opportunity, and they would represent their company, whether it be a heating and cooling company, a gas station, an auto repair store, whatever. And the winner would get a tree fee, but each person would for the charity of their choice. So for this thing. And I'm mentioning it because if anybody wants to call in, either to myself or to you guys, and say having a question, they can get the whole state of Ohio.
You mentioned Cleveland. I have a Cleveland-based question there, or sort of Cleveland-related, I should say. I remember a lot of pinball games coming out with themes, like for rock bands and
Absolutely.
movies. Do you have many of those?
I have a lot of them. So, again, I keep reverting back to Pinball Expo. And at Pinball Expo one year, I met a guy by the name of Tom Neiman. Tom Neiman was the marketing any titles where they start in corporate caption fantastic. And what they realized and what they discovered as they kept using more of these stars and their themes of the games was that a lot of times this would draw people to pinball, but people that normally wouldn't buy a pinball machine would buy it because that was their favorite group, like you said. So over the years, he signed like Dolly Parton. There's a Dolly Parton pinball machine, the Rolling Stones, on and on. So you are correct as far as the games with these themes, and many of them. Stern Pinball is they have a Jody Dankberg is their marketing guy there, and he has used many rock and roll bands, Rush, Foo Fighters, which is kind of local to us here, more. Uh, but just about every band you can think of, Rush, like I said, and Aerosmith, ACD, anyone that's into the pinball arena always said, well, where's the Beatles pinball machine? Nothing. So there's a guy by the name of Joe Camico who worked for Stern Pinball and Daddy East before that. But Joe Camico has the money and the contacts to do just about anything. And Joe Camico decided to do a Beatles pinball machine. So they created the game, created the design, the layer of the game, and they had a limited run of these games. But he tells me off the cuff that he spent almost $1 million to pull this feat off just to get a Beatles themed pinball machine. So never say never. I guess anything's possible if you want to. There's never been a pinball machine with the president's name on it, so that's never happened. But what they do, so what's happening is they get individuals like Skip or Jonathan that think they can design a pinball machine, and there's software available so they can create their own game, their own layout, their own artwork, and we call these guys the homebrew guy. We had over 40 homebrew entries, including one guy who brought in a pinball machine from France. So we were quite excited to see this homebrew guy from France. If you're really a diehard into pinball, we have seminars on every aspect of pinball, but we also offer it.
The tours sound really interesting. I want to touch on that and some of the other aspects you've mentioned. We are unfortunately coming up on a 9468. We'll come back with more on the other side of the break.
So,
All right. So on my view, I'm logged in. I'm looking at Rumble.
Oh, upload speed. I'm trying to solve that problem. Verizon looks like it's hurting us this morning. So
Yikes. Um, well, the audio is going through just fine. That's really the important part. For people to be able to hear our guest and YouTube. Skip is working on the video feed. It may be a little bit laggy this morning. Maybe you should be able to hear the audio loud and clear. And we are on break right now. This is our middle break. So Rob, we've got a few minutes to discuss what comes next and make sure that we highlight anything that you want to make sure to cover during today's 1 hour. I'm going to ask when we come back from break, Rob, about a website or any social media. All right.
Anybody have any questions yet from the outside?
I see a couple of comments, mostly along the lines of good morning and some comments about the articles. So no questions yet. I think we're doing a really good job of covering and making people aware. I was not aware of pastime at all prior to Skip telling me that you were going to be coming on and joining us.
yeah, you might want to. We talked about putting an ad in the paper. We get 43,000 households that just received a paper, and so one of the comments was, "Wow, every article is great. Particularly, I use the information from articles to discuss with others. Your in-depth scrutiny of the commissioners, ADP, and NOACA. Property tax is #1 issue for me. A lot of people up here are upset about property tax. So,
Oh yeah.
Yep, that's what it looks like. And then, so separately from this show, Rob, I'm also a co-host of Ohio Political News with Brian Massey and Joe Miller. Brian Massey co-hosts for 3 years on Ohio Political News. You may recognize Brian's name. He's one of the people behind the push to abolish property taxes.
30 seconds, 30 seconds.
Jonathan, reach out to me after this broadcast. I'll give you some names.
10 seconds, 10 seconds.
First time guest, Rob Burke from Pastime Pinball. We're learning all about the design and where to go to play pinball games, to reminisce and reconnect with your childhood past. There are pinball game sorts of things. What a great family-friendly destination in Girard, Ohio. And we've been learning all kinds of things, like the origin of pinball. Apparently it started in Chicago. I didn't know that. So I'm going to kick off the designers who are designing pinball games. Are new pinball games being built?
Well, what's so crazy is, and that's a good question. I see you've done your homework. What's a good currently? There's either over 12, and most of them are making pinballs now. So what I call them that because what they're specializing in is special low production runs. So, for instance, there's a company called Spooky Pinball, and they're working. The next game they have coming out is Beetlejuice.
Huh.
So you know the major manufacturers have apparently passed up on some of these titles because they don't think they're high production runs in these games, and they keep the machines running and keep the employees employed. But the lower runs like the Spooky makes, it works for them because they're a small operation, and like I said, they're supposedly they'll be doing Goonies is the next game they're doing. So
Oh, I remember that movie.
so they're picking titles that may not be the tip of your tongue of the hottest games out there. And I said, I got two dreams. Would you consider making a Pee Wee Herman pinball or a Three Stooges? And he didn't say yes, but he didn't say no. So I guess only time will tell for sure what happens. But I guess the point, speaking about the homebrew guys, anybody can make any title in the homebrew games, but some of these titles are licensed, so you can make one, but you can't necessarily sell it because these games are license protected. But you can, however, make the one. And we had one gentleman in our show do a pinball machine that one of the major manufacturers reached out to him and hired this guy. So he was a complete novice in the homebrew area, but the quality of his work was so over the top that he was hired by a major manufacturer. So you never know what you'll be doing next, and he's quite thrilled because I mean he's a pinball advocate. But pinball can be fun for the whole family. The hardest thing for the whole world is what games you can play on their phone. So it's almost like an introduction. I mean, Jonathan, you grew up playing pinball back in the day, and either the bowling alleys or the game rooms they had all over the place. But you don't see pinballs in game rooms. Well, some to a degree, that trend is kind of starting again and growing. But
You bring up a good point. I'm just going to interject for all you parents out there looking for excuses and opportunities to get your kids up, moving around a little bit, and for heaven's sakes, not. And while you were talking, I did look up Spooky Pinball, and it looks like there's a vibrant business here. They've got a podcast that people can go and find, and I do see that they've sold out of the Beetlejuice collection.
yes, the second it was released, the title was released and sold out. So what's interesting is Spooky is one of the few manufacturers that, like I said, has this. We call them a boutique manufacturer. They have a very limited run, but because of that, every title they come out with, people are just rushing to get the game. Come on. So
I'm sure that'll be big.
there's tons and tons of Pokemon fans. So again, in Stern's eyes, and as you and I could even imagine ourselves, it's going to be a high production run because these kids out there that collect these Pokemon trading cards, the numbers are crazy. And I think Stern's is hoping that they will turn. You wonder how can so many manufacturers survive with all this competition? But they're fine niches, whether it be the Beetlejuice or Pokemon's. One of the latest games from Jersey Jack is the Harry Potter. So you can imagine Harry Potter being a very, very popular thing. So if I could ever get Jonathan to pull those earmuffs off and come down to Warren, Girard, Ohio, or show him a bunch of pinball machines, and he'll come back a new man.
Yeah.
So Skip, you'll never have to worry about him coming late ever again because he'll be coming early. Man, I'm so pumped up, man. That pinball got me motivated.
Yep. We refreshed.
It's easy to get addicted to those pinball machines. I used to spend hours and hours. Of course, at that time it cost me quarters to play a game of pinball. But and so we'd just be in there for hours and hours as we were waiting for our next turn on the pool table. But goofy stuff going on back then because there was of course it was a different day and age, but you'd have some scantily clad women in the game itself showing up.
I'm sure Daisy Duke was there.
So there.
James Christensen, and they used to call him his nickname was Mad Dog, but he specialized in making these curvaceous women in his artwork, and he was very famous for that. But what's interesting for me is to meet all these guys. It's really interesting to see how this whole industry has progressed, and the pinball in general has gone up and down. It has its peak. There's a lot of pinball enthusiasts that just still can't understand is how can all these companies still keep the payroll going and keep producing games? I mean, how many games could you possibly sell to the general public or to the operators to buy them and put them on location? So that's one thing that we find quite interesting that these companies keep popping up, but they're not going out of business.
Well, I want to pause for a moment and talk about manufacturing. And,
All but about three of them are. Again, because pinball started in Chicago, in the home of pinball. So the one company comes from France that makes pinballs, a couple from Amsterdam, Denmark. There's a couple of them, international companies, but the most popular companies, the ones that are the strongest in industry.
well, that's for people looking for American jobs and American manufacturing. That is a seems to be a steady and consistent success story right there. That's
So what's going to
terrific
do
to
in
hear.
Chicago?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that is a question that I want to ask whether or not there's social media and web presence. We're going to come back from our third and final break with questions to Rob, Facebook, and YouTube. You can also call in and join the conversation with Rob Burke at 440-946-9gmail.com with any suggestions, recommendations, or questions of the paper, Pop Burke, when we come back on the other side of the break.
Mics are off. Mics are off.
I like that 60s music, guys. Keep that 60s music going.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Dirty water.
that's stuff that our sound guy Thomas, good morning, Thomas, to come up with a very good selection of music to take us in and out of breaks. And he's the band behind the soundboard, makes us sound good over the air.
So Jonathan, I gave you credit. You asked him good questions.
So, introduction. I want to get people jazzed about coming down and visiting you.
How do we get you to come? What
just-
we should do is we should do a meet and greet. So whatever.
Yeah, maybe we can broadcast from the. I bet there's a lot of great arcade sound in there.
Oh my gosh, crazy! Yeah.
That'd add some fun background to a live Voice of Geauga program from inside Pastime. I've talked about doing podcasts. So far, we've not actually done. Well, actually, there's one exception.
30 seconds. 30 seconds.
Generally speaking, if we do a standalone,
Right.
we could set a time and come down there and do a podcast only.
Yeah.
10 seconds. 10 seconds.
Bring the whole team down. You guys can go nuts.
Welcome back to Voice of Geauga with Skip Claypool, myself, Jonathan Broadbent, and our guest, Rob Burke from Pastime Pinball in Girard, Ohio. We learned before we went to American history of entertainment and the American ingenuity that goes into making these games. Support American. Get down to Girard, Ohio, and go play some pinball games. Get everything from getting your kids off screens to getting a little bit of a rush from the thrill of playing video and pinball. Social media, do you have a website people can go to?
Yeah, so the website is www.pasttimes, actually it's TIMES, plural, pasttimesarcade.com.
Pastimes. Okay.
Yeah, Pastimes Arcade. Also, if anyone's really truly interested about pinball in general, they can check out the show I do called Pinball Expo, which is pinballexpo.com. But everyone and anyone is into pinball, and any asked floor at this event in Chicago. But we have all the luminaries there. So if you like, there was a game, maybe Skip remembers, a game called the Addams Family Pinball. But it was a very popular one there. But the guy who designed that game, meet these guys, take pictures with them, It's the Everything and Everyone show come at Pinball Expo. It's and every aspect of it is really kind of cool. Uh, those people that really want to learn more about it or just getting into it will find it quite interesting. There's a buzz on the show floor that everyone's just high fiving everybody, and there's like a love in the air. Some are called Pinball Expo, the Woodstock of pinball. I like that, but there's just so much to do. There's so much to see, and I mentioned a little bit briefly about the 1930s display we have at Pastimes. We actually have a 1930s tournament at Pinball Expo, so it's not a whole lot to it. Pull the plunger back, watch the ball go, see all these luminaries at the show, walking the show floor. The Aspen was a very popular one, and there's so many superstars there that if you're into pinball at all, you Google any game, if you see who made the game,
The most fun to me. So.
right.
And how many of the machines now? We've gone to a digital era. They weren't so digital in my day, and now we
Right.
have a lot of digital componentry and guts and stuff. How has that changed the industry?
Well, what the evolution of pinball is such that everyone's trying to outdo the other guy. So whether it be through the titles or license they get, but more often than not, it's the bells and whistles on the playfield. We call them the toys or the mods. So there's the toppers that go on top of the package, either on the cabinets or on the playfield, or the sounds. The actual sounds of the rock band say, "Hey, step up and play the game," or whatever it may be. So they keep doing more and more to make the games enticing. And Jonathan, kind of what you alluded to, these rock bands, a lot of these themes of these games are rock to these machines because they want to see their heroes on the machine. And people that never own a pinball machine will buy it because their favorite rock bands on that game. So it's really interesting to see it. And I made the mistake of like, okay, great, we'd love to have you. So we're communicating back and forth, and I said, it's funny. We're going to be in Barcelona here in another month or so. Where are you located? And it wasn't too far away. So maybe we can stop by and see you since we're coming out there. So we met this guy. Oscar was his name, and he said, "I'll take you to some of the pinball collectors." So anyone who collects pinball, everyone's got the same games. The Adams Family, this game, that, the very popular games that had high production runs. So I go to Spain and visit this guy. America, I'd never heard of these titles. So I went crazy. The kid like in the candy shop, I gotta buy it. I'll buy that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. Well, I ended up buying over 60 pinball machines that were made exclusively for the Spanish market. And we have a row at Pastimes called the International Row. But we have games that are made in Japan. And again, they were made for those countries, and they were made in those countries. But there's such a limited amount of those games available in the hobby that I would say 95% of the arcades in America don't have one of these games. And I got a whole 60 of international games machine. So I emailed this one guy back and forth and said, "Hey, I'm buying that game from the arcade." So he writes back, "Yeah, I can help you. I want all." So this guy helped me out, and I acquired 5 different titles from this company. No one in the hobby had ever seen any of them. So again, for some people, the attraction of Pinball Expo, I'm sorry, of the Pastimes, is just the wide variety of machines from all over the U.S. and all over the world. So that really makes us stand apart from any other family or just for yourself. It'll blow your mind to see what you'll see there.
Plus, you tell us you have really good milkshakes. We're gonna have to come and test. That's the only way to go. I have a question for you. I'm gonna hit you with a curveball question, but something tells me you probably know the answer to this. What is the largest production run pinball game ever?
Well, I mentioned before, there's Adams Family.
Adam's Family is the largest production run ever, huh?
Yeah,
Interesting.
but the word is that this Jaws game may also beat or surpass it. So I mean, surpass it. So it's especially if they have a low run, they don't want to get embarrassed by the fact, oh, we only made 2,000 in that game. But Adam's Family is the highest, but there's Jaws is a popular one, but even more popular. Stern came out with a game called Godzilla. Remember watching the black and white Godzilla movies?
Yeah.
Part of the game is that they show these original black and white images on the screen of this Godzilla pinball machine.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Unfortunately, I need to
Really
step
cool
in,
to see
bro.
it.
We're coming
So
up
they
on the
incorporate
conclusion of
that.
the show. There's all kinds of things to see and experience the past.